Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 194 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today we'll be discussing chapter 50 of A Storm of Swords. That's Arya 10.
And as always, we're going to chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you. And hopefully we're going to provide you some entertainment along the way.
First to me, that means Arya has had a full 20% of this book to herself.
Oh, she
10,
has.
10 of 50 chapters. Amazing.
Yeah.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge in a little pedantry, and cover some relevant news and listener correspondence. Be sure to check out the show notes. They'll provide some additional information about the characters and geography in this chapter. How are you, Mackelly?
I'm doing well. We just had another fun and exciting wildfire side chat.
Yeah, it was an interesting question. What can instantly make our day better? And, well, become a sustainer and find out.
Yes. I will say I was trying to... Slight spoiler. One of the things I mentioned was positive feedback from our listeners. And I was trying to think of an analogy, and I ended up saying the wind beneath our wings. But what I was thinking of was the screams in Monsters, Inc. You know, how the screams sustained the Monsters, Inc. world, and, it supplied the energy. Positive feedback, positive reviews are like the screams to the Monsters, Inc. world, to us.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So,
yeah. I thought of another one after we hung up, which is having a task behind me.
Oh, yes.
You know, getting something done and not having it in the future anymore. I really like that.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't have to be big. It just has to be something that was hanging over me. Yeah.
Right. Checking things off the list. Oh,
yeah. Yes. That is good. That's good stuff.
That's good stuff. It is.
What's going on with you? Anything interesting? Anything funny? Come on, we need funny.
We do need funny. Not really. I couldn't figure out why my garage door wouldn't close. You know, when there's something in the way, it goes like your garage door starts to close and there's something. Oh, you don't have a garage door.
Garage door or garage. So no, none of these are familiar to me.
Well, when you shut a garage door, there's a sensor that is usually like a few inches off the ground.
If you're lying underneath it, it doesn't cut you in half.
Yes, or if your dog runs through right as it's starting to close.
I see.
It immediately comes back open and then the light blinks. At least on mine, it does that. Okay. And I looked out in the garage. I saw the door was open, so I hit it closed, and it bounced back up. And I was like, I don't see anything out there. That was weird. Hit it again, same thing. Hit it again, same thing. Something's not right. So I go down there and I look, and there is nothing. Not a single thing between the two sensors. There's like a beam that shoots across. That's how it works. You know, there's a sensor on the left, sensor on the right. Long as that beam can make it across, it closes just fine.
Down. Right, yeah.
It's like, what am I missing here? I was, there's nothing. There's no magical thing, invisible thing here.
And the resolution?
So I eventually discovered that a spider egg sac was hanging right in the way of one of the sensors. And a spider built it like in the eye hole of the sensor. And that's what was preventing it wasn't getting through. The beam wasn't getting through.
A weird thing.
It was a weird thing.
I would have thought Ghost. Ghost was getting in between it.
I was standing there like, what? I'm not going crazy. There's nothing here. What could be causing this issue? So that's what it was.
Back when I was young, I had a summer job at a metalworking company, and they had a press. Did you ever see the remake of The Fly? The movie The Fly?
I saw the original with Jeff Goldblum way back in the day. I don't know if I ever saw the remake.
That's the remake, you youngster.
Oh, is it?
Good God.
I didn't know that was a remake. That's news to me. That was a remake. I didn't know.
You're so young. So, yeah, I think either the remake or the original being quite a bit older than the Jeff Goldblum version.
Okay.
The movie ends, spoiler alert for those who want to watch The Fly without knowing, with him squishing himself to death in like a big metal press.
Oh, yes. Right. Okay.
So we used to have one of those where I worked. And I mean, I was always I didn't need to have watched The Fly to be afraid of that thing. I was
Yeah,
plenty afraid of that thing.
I'm
I mean,
sure.
because it punched holes in thick pieces of metal very
Oof.
easily. But it had a whole array of light beams across it. And this is back in the
Oh,
80s. And if you
right.
broke one of those light beams, it stopped. So I always wondered when I saw that Jeff Goldblum movie that whether or not he found a way to circumvent that because you
Oh,
couldn't
yeah.
do it with that thing.
Right. Yeah, he must have used mirrors.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
So, how about you? What's up?
Not a lot. I've been prescribed a drug that I'm supposed to take essentially for the rest of my life. And
Okay.
when I took the first pill, I recited the Night's Watch vow. Well, as best I could without actually
Right,
looking
yeah,
it
yeah.
up,
You remembered
And
bits and
and
pieces of it.
so my watch begins,
Right.
yada yada. Um, yeah, so that's unfortunate. And uh, breaking news, I don't have a terribly good memory, but I'm supposed to take one of these
What?
pills every day.
Oh boy.
So Carson has invested in a weekly pill container for me.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Not a bad idea.
Okay. Now we already have one of these in the house for the dog. Okay. Now I have a philosophy on these things. This has become quite a bone of contention in the house, right? Because
I feel like we need a label maker, first of all, before you get the dog's pills and the dog gets your pills.
fortunately they are quite different from one another, so I'm not
Okay.
going to get them mixed up.
All
Hopefully,
right, good,
not
good,
the
good.
pills. The pill containers are very different because
Okay.
the dog's has a morning and an evening, and mine doesn't. So they
All
don't
right.
look anything like one another. So we should be good with
Okay.
that.
Good.
But Carson, she'll see that the pill container is half empty, and she'll just refill it. She'll just take pills and refill it.
Oh no.
And to me, the very point of the pill
Yes.
container is that you refill it on a schedule. You do it at the same point each week.
Yes. Yes.
Otherwise, you're
Because
defeating the object.
yeah, you need to see that it's empty. You need to see you're on schedule,
Now,
right?
thank you, Mackelly. I tried to explain that to my family on the family call on Sunday, to be
Oh,
met with hoots of derision from all of them. All of them were on Carson's side. I'm like,
I'm with you.
thank you.
I
Although
would do it the same way.
I will say my little sister, Lucy, had a really cool thing. She had a modular one where you could actually move the day to the back of the line. So you
Oh,
could fill that up anytime. I was like, oh, that's actually quite fancy.
I
Kind of
guess
like
so,
that.
yeah. Yeah, because if you go to take your pill on Wednesday and there's a Tuesday in the container already, you think, "Wait, did I forget to take Tuesday's pill or did someone refill Tuesday's pill?"
And if you come and Wednesday is the first day with pills in it, and it's Wednesday, it's like, no, that doesn't
That
work.
worked.
That would work. You
That
definitely
would
take those
work.
pills, right?
Yes, you're good. You're good in that case.
Okay, but then the opposite. So the first thing in the morning, I eat that pill. I come to it later in the day. No, no, no. You're still gonna have a decent memory.
Wait, it's
but
you
it
could run
wasn't.
into the issue of taking the pill twice if it's back in there, and you're like,
Yeah,
"Oh, did I take my pill today or not?"
yeah.
Yeah. Uh huh.
So yes, it was very comical, and I kept on running scenarios. I kept holding the pill box up in front of them with pills in certain days, and I said, "Do you take the pill now? Do you take the pill now?"
Let's say it's Tuesday, June 21st. Which pill do you take? Well, that's no fun, but hopefully it's just a multivitamin is all.
Yeah, it's kind of like a multivitamin. Yeah, yeah.
Good. There you go.
Luckily, it's relatively cheap. Actually, that's the good thing. I mean, because
Yes, it
when she
is.
said, one of those a day for the rest of your life, I was like, that's gonna rack up. But it actually was $0, so I can afford that.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect amount
yeah,
for something you have to do for the rest of your life.
yeah.
I have my fasting labs 2 days from now, so
Uh,
tomorrow I've got to fast overnight.
you gotta cut out the beer.
Yes, that's what it is, and the ice cream, beer and ice cream. Uh-huh. Stacy sent me this podcast. She's a big fan of the podcaster Barry Weiss.
He's a big fan of lots of other podcasts.
She is.
I've noticed that.
You notice she said other
Yeah,
podcasts. Yes.
with a small or a big O.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. She has no clue that we're talking about her right now and never will unless I specifically tell her that we are. Um, she sent me this one there was this doctor on there, and he was talking about all kinds of health things that help you live longer with a better quality of life. And he said the number one best indicator for length and quality of length in life is VO2 max, which has something to do with
Breathing.
blood oxygen. Yes.
Yeah.
And so now, I'm like, really, he said it's a better indicator than like history of cancer, history of heart disease, history of Alzheimer's, any of that stuff. Your VO2 max is the best indicator of how long and you'll live and how long
literally
you'll
have no
live
idea
well.
what it is, but I think it's how much oxygen you can pull in under stress. Like, if I think don't they actually make you run hard to do that test?
As hard as you can. Yes.
Yeah.
But my Apple Watch gives me a VO2 max.
Oh.
I hope it's not perfectly accurate because mine was kind of underwhelming. It was okay. It was like slightly. It was slightly medium in the above average category.
Do you do much like hard exercise though? I mean, because you do the gym, but do you do much like cardio?
I have started to in my dotage here as I'm nearing another round number in my life. But no, for years I've just weightlifted. For 16 years, basically, I've just lifted weights. But now I've tried to start, especially now since I listened to that over the weekend. Now I'm like a cardio. I'm going to be running a marathon before you know it.
You see, between us, we're healthy because I'm the opposite. I never lift a weight if I can possibly avoid it, but I'll run like an idiot all day long. Yeah.
That's what made me think of it, is you talking about needing to take that pill, and I thought, I bet you have a really strong VO2 max, so you probably don't need to worry about it anyway.
Yeah, well, we're getting older, Mackelly. We're here talking about our ailments and our pills. Sound like
coming up on 200 episodes of doing this show.
I tell you, we're gonna have a little announcement about that later on.
We are. Stay tuned. Don't leave us before news and notes.
Yeah. Are you listening, brother-in-law Mark, who only listens to this bit? Stick around.
Or Kim, coworker Kim.
Oh, she does that too. I talked to her today. Actually, I should have said.
Oh, yeah. Well, tell her stick around.
Yeah.
Till news and notes so she can hear. Hi, Kim.
Right. Well, let's get down to business. How did we leave Arya start? Last we saw of Arya, she and Sandor Clegane were trudging through the Riverlands in relentless rain. They managed to get across the swollen river, but not without missing a chance to make new friends. The Hound had convinced Arya to abandon her hopes of escape or killing him. He is very convincing. But it turns out he's not dragging her back to King's Landing as she feared, but instead they're heading to her uncle's wedding at the Twins. Yay, good news!
And a reunion with her mother and brother.
So,
how
Mackelly,
exciting that would be.
Why don't we give them a summary of this one?
I think that would be very appropriate at this time.
And Mackelly, can I just say that if you want to really stretch out this summary to like the length of the chapter, we will not overspill our time slot because this is the shortest, least chapter I can remember in the entire series so far.
7 pages on my ebook.
Yeah.
Well, I've only read through this summary once, so there might be a lot of outtakes. The raw footage might be rather lengthy. Okay, so Arya and the Hound are traveling north, disguised as farmers. Outriders from the Twins stop them to check out their story. The band comprises of a knight and 2 squires, but Arya doesn't recognize the pitchfork sigil, so keeps quiet. Salt pork for the wedding is their cover story, and between their rough-spun cloaks and the barrels of salt pork, it's pretty solid. Only stranger tied to the back of the wain is problematic. He's no farmer's horse.
Clegane says that he's a wedding gift from Lady Whent. The knight snorts derision about the old fool hoping to buy back Harrenhal, but he waves them through. When out of earshot, the Hound laughs that he knew the knight, Ser Donnel Haigh, who Clegane had armour and horse from at various tourneys. Arya's sceptical. Why didn't he recognise the Hound? But the answer is obvious. Knights don't even see small folk.
Did you pronounce that Hay or Haig?
I said hey. Hey.
Like
Hey.
H-E-Y?
H-E-Y.
Okay,
Yeah.
good to know. Well, it's best probably if we pronounce things the same way, like Melisandre.
I still don't know what I'm doing wrong. Melisandre.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes. It's a dr, I believe, at the end.
It's
there.
DRE, right? I'm not misreading it like I was with
Yeah, I
Jamie.
believe so.
Okay.
Jamie. Oh, that Jamie one. That'll stick with me.
And for me too.
Anyway, the wain and the clothes had come from a hapless farmer they'd met along the road, who was lucky enough to escape with his health. The Hound didn't want to arrive in front of King Rob in chains, so he wants to infiltrate without being noticed, and he's awfully noticeable. All that stands between Arya and her family are a castle gate, a river, and an army. But it's a Stark army, so all should be well. But Roose Bolton's presence does give her misgivings.
He escaped Harrenhal as much to avoid Bolton as the bloody mummers, and killed one of his men in the process. Might he want revenge? But Clegane had roughly cut her hair, and she reckons that her own family won't recognise her, let alone Bolton. They hear music before they see the encampment on the bank of the swollen Green Fork. Night is falling, and the damp banners hang limply, so Arya cannot make them out.
Wagons had been drawn together as a rough palisade, and they're stopped again. They're directed to a man named Sedgkins, who's overseeing the feast. The Hound had hoped to go into the castle, but that's all locked up, and the feast is already half over. At one of the huge feast tents that they pass, the music is louder, the drunkenness ubiquitous, and the debauchery on full display. But still, Arya can't find a familiar face. She hears toasts to Rosalind and Edmure, and to the young wolf and Queen Jane.
She has no idea who Queen Jane is. Arya's mouth waters at the smells of food and suggests that they stop and find Northmen, but the Hound is not stopping to offload for Sedgkins. He's making for the castle, and for once they are in agreement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we've got. So that's what we'll do.
So that is her 10th episode. So that's a Hamilton. I had to look. I had to go find a $10 bill. In fact, I didn't even. I don't have any cash, so I went and looked online for what a $10 bill has on it. That's an
I wouldn't
Alexander
have a $10
Hamilton.
bill either.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I wondered what you meant by a Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They say Benjamins, don't they? Like that's a
100.
slang word for money. Well, I wouldn't
Yes.
know. I'm not you, Mackelly.
I don't have any of those on me either. I'm pretty sure it's 100.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know because I rarely have a $100
Yeah.
bill on me, but
I'm a Washington man myself.
yes. Every now and then an Abraham Lincoln
Oh, easy.
copper
easy.
penny.
in my mum's birthday card to me, perhaps.
Yeah, so she's on Arya 10, and the next two closest are Kat and Jamie on Arya on 6. So
Actually, think about that. Think about how much of this book has been in the Riverlands.
yes.
That's been
yes.
an awful lot. Like that's almost just there. That's 22 out of 50 chapters have been here in the Riverlands.
Right. That's nearly 50%.
Yeah.
Wow.
With all these venues we could be in, it's the
Right.
Riverlands has been the fulcrum of this one.
Think of up to Storm of Swords, how much of the content was focused on King's Landing, and then such a departure here in Storm of Swords.
And it's slightly strange to me because it felt like when Tywin arrived in King's Landing, it felt like there was going to be an uptick in the action going on in King's Landing. But in actual fact,
Right.
it's calmed down. Maybe it's because our primary POV to the sort of workings of King's Landing is Tyrion, and
Right.
he has been ousted from his position of power. That's
Yes.
partly why, maybe. And we also have Sansa, but she's not as intimate with the
Yeah. Yeah, I
politicking.
think you could be right. Tywin's presence has been kind of a calming
Yeah,
presence between the sibling rivalry of
right.
Tyrion and Cersei.
So there's not been
So,
as much to enjoy there. Yeah, that's
yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
maybe. But it also gives credence to the idea that we discussed several episodes ago that the storm of swords is the rain, because there's been
Ah,
so much of it in the Riverlands. It's
yeah.
basically every Riverlands chapter, almost every one has been in rain. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this chapter, not an awful lot to discuss. I mean, we've got the Hound being a ruthless cutthroat. Yeah, check. Arya
Uh-huh.
toying with escape, but eventually just going along with things. Check. That's what she does. Arya sees Northmen, but cannot bring herself to reveal her identity. Check. This happens over and over
Right.
again, you know. So
Yep.
all these things are familiar. But I mean, they at least got through the two gates in. So now they just have to get through the castle gate, and then she can be reunited.
Yeah.
Ah,
So it begs the question, why have this chapter, which is the same question we asked the last Arya chapter? They easily could have combined, Martin easily could have combined chapter Arya 9 with Arya 10, or skip them both, because really not a lot of story progression happened in either chapter. You could have summed these two chapters up in one paragraph talking about the
yeah.
trials and tribulations they faced while getting to the twins.
We'll say that the next chapter is Cat again, right?
Yeah.
And this quick change of scenery between two POVs who are coming together feels sort of
Oh,
cinematic
sure.
of a sort of like this is an exciting moment we're building towards kind of thing. So I wonder if that's some
Yes.
of it.
Yes, I would say that's a good point, but I say that too much.
You do,
That is
but
an that is a really well done observation.
yeah,
Well thought observation. I like it. I do. I like it. We've just discussed how many chapters have been Arya, and so much of it is just her roaming around the Riverlands. And, you know, my thought is it's Martin setting the tone of life in the Riverlands through Arya's struggles,
yeah.
showing, just how rough the people of the Riverlands have it.
But I think also there's let's 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 hope Arya is here to stay. Let's hope she's not going to go the way of Ned. And so
Right.
she's going to grow into an adult if that's the case. And
Uh-huh.
as an adult, she'll gain more autonomy and more agency over her actions. One of the things that's happened throughout this book is that she has been at the mercy of others. She has very few
That
of
is
these
true.
chapters has she been making the progress that she wanted to make. Others have been
Right.
forcing her to go in different directions. And so maybe that's part of it as well.
Oh yeah, the helpless feeling of
Yeah.
just being dragged along
Yeah.
wherever you're being dragged along.
The flip side of that, of course, is she is a lady of a noble house. Her adult life might be spent as a cloistered wife of a lord somewhere, which
Oh boy.
she will bridle against, that's for sure.
She will.
But that
Yes.
actually could be another story, another sort of comparison, not the contrast with her adult life being much more free and able to do things, but actually a reaffirmation of the as a female, she was always going to have her life railroaded and she was never going
Okay.
to get to choose.
Right. Okay.
All hypothesis. We don't know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. The chapter also establishes these two. I shouldn't say just this chapter. Chapter Arya 9 and Arya 10 both help establish the relationship between her and the Hound, and he's hoping one of his possible avenues of career progression here would be to enter into the service of King Robb, and if he does, it's possible these two might spend a lot of time together over the years. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Certainly in the TV show they were funny together and again credit to Martin. These are two great characters, and so their being together was always going to be interesting to watch. And so,
right.
but in the TV show they were noticeably good. But I think I've noticed actually. I think I must really like Maisie Williams because I often think that Arya plus some other person was a really good combo.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we've talked about her character and Charles Dance. Arya and Tywin had really great on-screen chemistry.
Um, so she has toyed with trying to escape and kill the Hound, but he has talked her out of it. And again, as I said in the summary, he would be very convincing with that. If his eye flicked open just as you were about to kill him, you would you would think twice about trying it again.
You just might.
Yeah. Uh, and
Yeah, she.
the whole thing about them going incognito here, for a long time during the chapter, I was like, why are you even bothering? You might as well just arrive here. It's a royal wedding. Well, technically not a royal wedding because it's just a lord and a lady, but it's a big wedding in the Riverlands. It's the Lord of Riverrun getting married. People would flock from far and wide. You don't have to have a cover story to get in. But then later in the chapter, it does mention that he didn't want to get dragged in front of the Starks in chains,
Yes,
and that's
right.
really what he's after here. He wants to get as close as possible before he's revealed.
Yes, and we had talked about that, I think, in Arya 9, is whether he would be able to get to Robb of his own accord or taken prisoner and Arya taken off of him.
Yeah.
And, Arya here doing what she does best, playing a lowly peasant boy, again, as she's often confused as. It's much harder for the Hound to assume a new identity.
Yes, because he's giant and has a burned face. Yeah.
Yes. So, unless he went somewhere where nobody had heard of Sandor Clegane, like the Free Cities or something, he's going to have trouble blending in.
Much harder to find Robb Stark there.
Yes, or anyone who's aware of the Clegane family and their reputation.
Yeah.
But was he going to be able to get to Robb himself freely and hand over Arya in a way that says, "This is what I've brought you. I'm bringing you your sister as, a gift. Please do something on my behalf now," or taken as a prisoner and having Arya taken away from him. If it was the latter, if he was taken, if Donnel Haigh had said, "Hey, take that hood off," and saw that it was Sandor Clegane. Now, first of all, he mentions about how badly he's beaten Donnel Haigh over the years. It is just him and two squires, so it's a very good chance the Hound still comes out on top anyway. But let's just say he doesn't. What does Arya do? She's wanted him dead for so long, but now she's riding somewhat amicably with him, and he's doing what she wants, whereas Beric Dondarrion was not doing that so freely and had just put it on hold. We're not going near Riverrun because we don't know what's about to happen. So does she vouch for him to her family or make him out to be a monster who kidnapped her and have him killed or imprisoned?
Yeah, I think there's a miscalculation here by the Hound because it makes sense to try and get past the Donnel Hayes of this world to get into the camp, but he's not going to get to Robb Stark's side with his hood pulled over his head.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. What he should be doing is he should be working on a little bit of diplomacy with Arya.
Yes.
To say, look, I know you've got no reason to like me, but right now, I'm doing the one thing that you really want. Will you please put in a word for me? Because I won't get a chance.
Yes. Yeah, it's true.
Because as close as I get, you will be taken from me before I get a chance to talk to Robb.
Probably before he gets in the castle.
Right. Right now, where they are, the castle walls, the castle gates are going to be the point where the only way through those castle gates is to say, "This is Arya Stark."
Right.
That's
and Arya to say, "This is my escort."
Right. Yes. No, he would no, he'd be invited inside the walls anyway, but not necessarily a free man. That's the thing.
Right.
He will be invited to talk very deeply about what's been going on and why they're traveling together.
Right. Especially with the news last chapter about Gregor Clegane killing, him and his men killing so many Stark men. So
right. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Because he wouldn't know this, they actually might feel like he's an assassination attempt,
Oh,
just his presence there.
Right.
He got this close by having Arya with him, and now
Yes, he probably doesn't even know. He wouldn't know
Exactly. Yeah.
that this is swirling around him.
And you mentioned Donnel Haigh, and I will say, I'll have a tip for you if you're manning the ingress to any kind of encampment, is ask someone to pull their hood back. I mean, why are you letting that guy go past you with his hood pulled up? It could be Gregor Clegane under there, for all you know.
Right.
You never checked.
Could be anybody. It's not much effort to say, "Hey, pull your hood back.
Yeah.
Let me see your eye. I want to look upon your face."
Yes.
You know.
And actually, I mean, obviously, Stranger was the problem there on that disguise because you could disguise the Hound and Arya, and you had a cover story in the vein of Salt Pork, but that horse just looks like a big knight's dangerous horse.
Right.
And but the cover story was quite clever. Lady Whent giving a gift, and Donnel Haigh was like, "Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. She's trying to buy back Harrenhal, and she's an old
Yeah.
fool for trying." So it was a
Yeah.
particularly good choice.
And it also makes sense because she's disappeared. Nobody has seen nor heard of Shella Went, and since she was ousted by the Lannister forces.
Since she went, yes.
Since she went,
Yes.
yes.
Um,
It's awfully hard to disprove his claim when nobody knows where she is.
I did
if
wonder
she's-
about that. I remembered that she'd been AWOL, but I wondered if I'd missed that she'd been found again. So
She at least we have not heard that she has.
yeah, that makes it a little bit riskier of an option. But again, then maybe he didn't know. Maybe he didn't know that she was not.
Oh yeah, he very well might not
Yeah.
have. But it seems less likely that she'd already be at the Twins and would have brought her own
True.
present,
True.
So because nobody has seen her. But you're right. Probably he doesn't know that nobody has seen her. So
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
this episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes.
And the Hound is once again stolen from the small folk, and weirdly gets into a fight with the farmer about what he is. The farmer calls him a robber, and he says, "No, I'm just a forager." But if you forage from someone else, that's robbing. That's
Well, he does that as a throwback to Cat 6 when they were in the lair of the Brotherhood Without
Brotherhood, yeah.
Banners. Yes, underneath
help
the
me with
hill.
this throwback.
So, like you said, he calls the farmer the farmer calls him a robber, and he says, "No, I'm a forager." And back when they were in that cave, the Hound said to the Brotherhood Without Banners, when they were all around him, "You're nothing more than common thieves," after they took his gold. And Lemoncloak said, "The lions and the wolves come into villages and take all the food and coin they find and call it foraging. No one robbed you. You've been good and foraged." So he's just throwing that back out there.
There you go.
I'm not a robber. I'm a forager.
All right.
But yeah, he again we see him being a bit of a brigand with stealing this farmer's belongings at Sword Point, and this is not the first time we've discussed the negative repercussions of the Brotherhood Without Banners taking all of his gold. We conjectured at the time that they were sending a broke, aimless man out into the Riverlands, which is filled with broken men, and this guy is more dangerous than most of them.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it might, if he had 1,000 gold pieces, gold dragons, or whatever they would have left him, he would have given the guy a few coppers or a silver or something for his troubles, but he doesn't have anything, so he couldn't if he wanted to.
Yeah. And then Arya, she's very nervous. She's nervous about Roose Bolton, but at least she thinks that through and decides that he probably wouldn't remember her and he wouldn't recognize her now that the Hound's hair salon has been in service.
We're not hiring him for if we open a hair salon in Molestown with our haberdashery, He is not getting a
Although
job.
maybe it'd be good for the Night's Watch deserters, although maybe too much of a calling card. So you're wearing a brown cloak and you've got a terrible haircut.
Yes, that could be a problem.
Yeah, so she rationalizes away that Bolton won't actually be after her, but she's nervous about seeing her own family. She's worried about how they will feel about all the things she's done. And again, we've talked about this before. Arya has the concerns of a child, despite the
Yes.
adult life she's had to lead. Uh, she cannot know how delighted and utterly forgiving her family are going to be. They are not going to hold
Right.
anything she's done against her.
Absolutely. Yeah, she's tense and stressed and rather than being happy about the reunion, and she remembers that she had a terrible dream the night before, but she can't recall what it was, but it's made her very uneasy all day long. It's
Yeah.
made her uncomfortable. So, but it's understandable that she's worried about how her family's going to react because she's a kid, and she's been worried about things as minor as her hygiene and appearance upsetting her mother, so
Yeah.
it's obviously silly, but it's the things kids worry about.
Yeah,
Now,
and she also might just sort of like overarching that, she might feel that she did something wrong. If she
right.
just stayed put in King's Landing, she might not be in all this trouble. But she fought her
Well,
way out,
possibly.
and so
Right.
maybe it was a miscalculation from the get-go. Little does she know, it's her sister who's going to be in the doghouse when the full story of that little debacle hits.
You told Cersei
Yeah,
what?
exactly. Your
Oh, you're in big
sister
trouble.
stabbed a guy with a sword. That's what you were supposed to do.
She points out about how her family won't recognize her because of her terrible haircut, but also because she hasn't seen them since she left Winterfell, which was so long ago,
Yeah.
and so much has happened.
Yeah.
It's really hard to wrap your head around that was the last time she saw Robb and Cat.
Yeah.
So, but they hear music as they approach the castles when
You missed
come
the
up
air
over the hill.
quotes, listeners.
Yes, music, because they can't believe how bad the music is, and it's just so Walter Frey that he didn't spring for the top musical talent. He hired the typical wedding DJ, only times 2, because there's music coming from both castles, and Arya thinks that it's so bad and they're competing against one another. It sounds more like a battle than it does wedding music,
But the show sprang for the musicians because I think Coldplay were part of the wedding musicians in the show.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they were just fans and wanted to get on there, so they were invited. So
Yeah, there's another
yeah, the red-haired guy,
singer.
him.
Yeah, I can't
I'm
think
sure
of
he's
his name.
famous and someone would know his name. I am not that guy.
Me either.
Mhm.
Or about probably 50% of our listeners are
Oh
shouting
yeah,
his name out.
faux show. We apologize. It's not intended as a slight on that young man who I'm sure is very talented and has a lovely voice. But I don't know what his
Is
name
it
is.
Ed?
Ed
Ed
Sheeran.
something?
Yay!
Yes. I
Check us out.
think that's right.
Let's edit that down to just 3 minutes of guessing.
Right. So the Hound, probably rightly, concludes that they've missed the wedding because there's a lot of festivities going on, which certainly seems like they've reached the feast part of the reception.
Of course, I mean, there are sort of like two groups here. There's the people inside the castle, and then there's people outside the castle. People outside the castle are not privy to what's going on inside the castle. So the exact timing
Well,
of when the
true.
wedding happens is neither here nor there to them. The beer is flowing and the salt pork is available. They're going to dive in.
I wonder if they had to wait until some town crier type,
Oh, yeah, possibly. Yeah.
or bells, maybe
Yeah.
bells,
Or the music fired up or something. Yeah, but
the music fired up, terrible as it is.
I'm with you and the Hound on this one. It does seem
Right. So that's a little disappointing. It would have been a bonus to make the wedding, but
You know what, Mackelly? One thing I've noticed in this book is timelines are not rigid. In
right.
the next chapter, the wedding might not have happened.
Well, that's true.
Yeah,
That's
we'll
true.
see.
But I just meant it would have been nice to have
Arya
Arya
there for the wedding.
make
I
it.
see.
Yes, that would have been the
Yeah, I
bonus
got
for
you.
Arya to make it in time to be
I thought you were. I
there.
thought you were feeling bad because you'd missed the wedding, Mackelly, but you meant
Oh,
Arya. I see.
I meant Arya.
Yeah.
Yes. But, they are in time for some festivities, and what a celebration this will be. A wedding and getting their daughter/sister back. I mean,
Yeah.
it-
Honestly, I think I might cry because Arya's journey has been so arduous and so,
oh, yes.
I mean, just
I agree.
just rotten for everyone, and just to see her collapse into her mother's arms. Oh, I can't wait.
I agree. And I've been thinking about it. I figure Arya will probably go to Seaguard with Kat. I mean, Kat's not gonna let her out of her sight.
It's true. Yeah.
Probably ever again. Yeah. She'll be the same age Kat is, and Kat will still have her chained to her by the hip.
The only thing that might upset that is that if Rob is planning to head back north, he might want a kid sister who he can marry off to someone as a thank you for something. But
Possibly.
Seaguard's as good a place as any for her for now. She's still too young for that. So
yeah, I just don't see Kat allowing her out of her sight.
Actually, though, isn't Arya promised to a Frey?
She was, yes.
That part of the deal hasn't been reneged on yet.
Right.
The Freys might be like, well, actually,
we've already got the band here.
So that's it. We are still going to get to see a wedding. It just won't be Edmure's. That's a point, actually. I hadn't thought of that. The phrase really might sort of like say, well, you can't filch on the entire deal.
Right. Yeah, because that was a big selling point.
Yeah.
And it marries a Frey to a highborn Stark.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
it's good. So. It's good for everyone, with the possible exception of the Frey and Arya. So Arya hears a toast to Queen Jane, who, of course, she doesn't have a clue who Queen Jane is, and she probably doesn't know who the young wolf is either.
She might not. Yeah. Speaking of people who married highborn, Queen Jane married quite a step up. Now, Queen of the North. It makes sense. She doesn't know who she is. She's not seen many King's Men except for Harwin, and Harwin wasn't with Rob, right. So he's technically a Northerner, but he's not a Stark man anymore. So, but you would think that the Brotherhood Without Banners might have caught wind of the news of the king marrying, and I thought maybe Ravella Smallwood might have gotten a letter from her husband. Arya sees the Smallwood sigil here at the feast. It's one of the ones she notices.
From Acorn Hall?
And she remembers Ravella Smallwood telling her she's beautiful or something along those lines. But, Ravella might have gotten a letter like, how life is going from her husband. But anyway, I guess not.
The only thing left in the notes, Mackelly, is Easter eggs, and I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, I'm talking about Easter eggs. Wouldn't that be nice to add to the salt pork?
I choose the Easter eggs over the salt pork. Yeah, sure.
Yes. No, I'm just going to say that I noticed 3 Easter egg hints of things to come into play in future chapters, and we'll discuss those when the events happen.
Will you remember, Mackelly?
I will. I've written them down, so hopefully I'll remember to check back.
Yeah. All right, exciting.
I'll say this. If you want to go digging, I'm not going to spoil what the Easter eggs are, but if you want to go digging, one is an observation that she makes. It's a little bit loose of a hint. It's the loosest of the 3. There is an odd action happening that Arya notices, and she points out a sigil, which is a rather unexpected sigil to see in this scene.
Exciting.
So dig at your own risk.
Yeah.
If you want to go digging, you might spoil future things, but
Well then, let's move on. Do you have some background?
I have a little bit of background to fit this little bit of chapter. So I thought, who else to talk about but Donnel Haigh, or as I've been saying in my head this whole time, Haig.
It could be either way. It
So
really could. You
yeah,
can do it either way.
well, you said hay first, so we'll stick with that.
What did your man Roy Dotrice say?
That is a good question. I forget. I've listened to this chapter probably 6 times this week, and I forget how he pronounced it. I'll have to update you later. He must have said Haig, because if he was saying hey, I would have been calling him Hay. You'd think. Anyway, so as we know, he comes upon Arya and the Hound during their journey to the Twins. House Hay, or Haig, is a Riverlands house with fealty to House Frey. Aside from their sigil, which Arya describes, that's basically a black pitchfork on a diagonal swath of gold on a brown background, there's not much else known about the house. We have recently just met Ser Donnel. He was with Lame Lothar when Cat met Lame Lothar and some people that Lame Lothar was with while Cat was looking for Sir Perwyn. He was with his father, Leslin, and his older brother, Harris. Donnel's mother, who was Leslin's wife, is Perianne Frey, who happens to be the oldest daughter of Lord Walder and fourth oldest of all his children. Donnel also has a younger brother named Alan, who we haven't met yet.
Thanks. Well, I mean, it's good to have background on someone. Comparison with the television show, we get to enjoy the scene where Clegane gets the cart from the farmer, and the Hound was just going to kill the farmer because he's not very nice, but Arya's intercession keeps the farmer from his untimely end. Although, of course, he is now presumably destitute, and so no doubt the weather and the looming famine will finish the job off that Arya prevented the Hound from.
That is possible.
And then
cynical view, but possible.
And then they arrive, sort of like, and it runs into the next scene. So there's not much I can say without spoiling the next chapter, I feel.
Okay.
Pedantry. What was the point of Donnel Haig's Outriders? So people would be coming to the wedding. So why do you need Outriders outside the confines of the sort of like they built this palisade of wagons to stop anyone sort of like just invading the army?
Right.
What's the point of Outriders? The only point really of Outriders would be to spy Gregor Clegane's army coming up the road towards you. And then you don't need Outriders, you need spies, you need lookouts. That's all you really need. You don't need these people to stop individuals and ask them who they are, because what's the point? It's people coming to the wedding. Either people who are coming to celebrate, or people coming to sell something, or people coming to perform, or I just don't see why you would bother with this layer of security. Especially if you don't check the face of the person you're talking to. I mean, the thing is, you'd do this if there was a danger of like suicide bombers, but that doesn't seem to be in keeping with the story.
I get it. Yes. Yeah, I guess Hay must have just been a nosy.
Maybe, yeah.
Outlook.
Maybe he was out there to be the lookout for an invading army, and just to kill time, he terrorized 2 farmers on the road.
Right. That's possible.
Well, give me some news and notes then.
Okay, so our 200th episode celebration is coming up.
What are we on? We're on 194?
We are on 194, yes.
Okay, so coming up
very soon here. And we have decided it's going to take place on Discord. We're thinking of something live, possibly a live episode or a Q&A, or possibly a live episode followed by a Q&A. So you're going to want to stay tuned for more details, but if you're not already a member of our Discord community, now is a great time to go out and join our Discord community, because you can partake in this. Simon's counting on his fingers.
I'm counting on my fingers. I've got a week off, which I think will come just after this. So I think we're okay. Unless we take a week off for July 4th, but I don't think we'll do that. I think we'll record that week. So we should be all right.
Likely.
Yeah,
okay.
And we have a review. I love a review. Oh, this person's on the Discord server now.
I believe so. The name fits.
Yeah. Name fits, yeah. So this review is from podchaser.com, and the reviewer is Gaylord Ravioli. Found the podcast a couple of months ago and binged my way through the episode. Thanks for entertaining me while I washed the dishes and did my laundry. Yeah, That's
I love when people tell us what they do while they listen.
That's what I do. That's what I do too. I listen on Spotify, so I figure I'd come over here to review since Spotify doesn't let me. I love, love, love the hosts. A Song of Ice and Fire is very interesting, obviously, but
In quotes?
yes. But if, like me, you've already read the books and watched the show, it can get a bit boring at times. Looking at you, Branchant.
That made me laugh.
But Simon and Mackelly managed to hold my attention for even the sparsest chapters. Looking at you, Arya. Whether it's through their witty banter or their predictions and commentary, always amusing to watch them try to avoid spoilers, or through their very right and solid pedantry, even including the ones where they call it stupid character decisions. You are both right, and you should say it louder. Great podcast for anyone, even if you hate Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire. Just listen to the witty banter and skip the story. Who cares about dragons and zombies anyway? Well, thank you, Gaylord Ravioli. That is a very nice review. We appreciate it very much.
Well done, and very amusing and flattering at the same time. So thank you very much.
All right, let's conclude. So the Hound is using his noodle and, of course, the threat of violence, because it's the Hound, to infiltrate the wedding with Arya in tow. But this cannot get them through the last gate. It just can't.
Right.
There's no way.
No, they're not going to let some hooded specter walk through with a little boy or girl if someone guesses right.
You're a tall fella. Do you want to take your hood off for me? No? Well, come on in anyway. Yeah.
I wonder if he looks kind of like,
the Grim Reaper.
Grim Reaper, that's the word. I totally drew a blank on that. Looks like the Grim Reaper with his hood drawn over his face so much.
And then takes his hood off and it gets worse.
That's right.
But it does feel like they're at the home stretch now. So will Arya get her tearful reunion? Will the Hound get his reward or what he deserves? Or a bit of both? You see what I did there? You see what I did there? Yeah.
I do see. They're not always the same thing. Reward and what he deserves, yes. But she's here. She's finally here with her family after all she's been through. She's at the same castle as her mother and her brother. Feels like we can finally take a breath. As you alluded to earlier, such a hard, rotten, awful, terrible time since fleeing the Tower of the Hand and leaving Syrio Forel behind. If we just take a minute and count the things she's dealt with since leaving Syrio Forel and fleeing the Tower of the Hand, sleeping on the streets of King's Landing, running, hiding, fighting to survive, begging and stealing for food. Then she has to watch her father's execution like a commoner out in the masses.
She didn't even get the VIP seats for her father's
execution.
Like
Sansa.
Yeah, Sansa's right
at
there,
least nearby,
sprayed with blood.
Then Yoren, taken in by Yoren, and remember she was bullied by Hot Pie until she beat him up, and then she got beaten by Yoren for beating up Hot Pie for bullying her. And then they buried travel companions on the road with Yoren, and then she had to fight Amory Lorch, and his men, and many of her people were killed, and she had to kill people. And then the kids are alone and abandoned by the adults and starving on foot as they trek northward through the woods. And then they get captured by Gregor Clegane, and Lamy gets killed right in front of her. She witnesses daily torture on that hard march to Harrenhal. Then she gets to meet up with Whis and sleep on the floor and eat scraps and work all day, becomes the ghost in Harrenhal and kills people with a single word. And while she's there, she hears about the death of her younger brothers. She kills a man to escape, wanders aimlessly through the woods with Hot Pie and Gendry, constantly fearful of being caught, which she does get caught, by the Brotherhood Without Banners, marched in the wrong direction, held for ransom, traverses every square inch of the Riverlands.
Slightly more aimlessly once she was captured. She had a little bit of an aim before she was captured.
She was heading in the right direction, more or less. Then she gets kidnapped again by a man who happens to be on her nightly prayer kill list. And finally, she's being returned to her family.
Yeah, well, when you put it like that, it's been a rough ride for Arya, I'll agree. So yes.
It has. It certainly
thank goodness.
Has.
And honestly, I hope the Freys don't insist she marries their son. That would be a tough pill to swallow at the end of all that.
I'm drawing a blank on which Frey it is. Elmar Frey?
Let's call it a day, shall we? Yeah. So, and next week we have Kat, so we'll get to see the inside of the wedding, which will be nice. And we'll get,
That's right.
hopefully, the mother and daughter reunion.
Yeah. Hopefully, yes, we'll get wedding bells, and we'll see Edmure in a tux, possibly.
Yeah. Big grin on his face.
Right.
All right. Well, there's 4 ways that you can help us. You could leave us a 5-star rating and a positive review like Gaylord Ravioli did. You can buy merchandise at ghostsofharrenhal.threadless.com. You can buy us a cup of Arbor Gold at buymeacoffee.com/ghostsharrenhal. Become a sustainer at the Lord Paramount or Knight of the Realm level and hang out with us all the time. Or you could just donate to our cause through our website, ghostsofharrenhal.buzzsprout.com.
We'd appreciate any of those and all of those. So, as always, you can reach us at ghost.harrenhal@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at @ghostharrenhal. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.